A little over 2 months ago, John Cena wrestled in his final match and retired from WWE, after 20 plus years of being one of the most polarizing figures in the business. After 20 years of being the top guy in the business and growing up with a generation of fans, and leaving an undeniable mark on professional wrestling, John Cena put on his wrestling gear one final time. Whether you watch wrestling or not, whether you love him or question him, moments like this hit different because they remind us what it feels like to watch something you grew up with finally come to an end. I know that I'm late to discuss this, but I wanted to do it right. I wanted to explain who this character and person is to me and other people that grew up with him as well, and how much he meant to his fans, and even as a viewer, you might recognize that feeling of watching someone who shaped your childhood walk away. This was actually one of the first video topics that I wanted to discuss when I started this channel and when I heard about his retirement. I never really understood the idea of growing up and watching your hero or icon and seeing their career slowly fade until they retired. That wasn't until December 13th, 2025. In this video, it isn't going to be a retrospect of John Cena's career because so many others have done that in great depth. Instead, it's my personal look at the person, the way I saw him grow and how he influenced fans like me, how someone like him can leave a mark on anyone who ever looked up to something bigger than themselves, and how he'll always remain than just a wrestler. The year was 2006. I was just a kid and I didn't really have any interests. I would watch cartoons, play with action figures, play video games, but nothing ever piqued my interest. Then one evening, my dad and I were flipping through the channels and he landed on Monday Night Raw. It was the October 9th edition, and that's when he appeared, John Cena. Even now I can remember the moment as if it was frozen in time. There was something magnetic about him, standing in the ring with that big shiny spinning gold belt. The way he carried himself, the way he spoke, the way he dressed, it all felt larger than life. And somehow, even with characters that on paper sound more intriguing than him, like a literal king and an actual giant, and even his opponent that night who was a tall, terrifying looking undead phenom, my young eyes were only drawn to Cena. It wasn't just the spectacle of the ring, it was the energy he radiated, the confidence in his stride, the determination in his words. I was invested in something that felt alive, urgent, and exciting. It was a glimpse in the world of wrestling, where anything is possible. I started to follow every show, including SmackDown and ECW, but no one came close to being as captivating as Cena. He didn't just get me into wrestling, he opened doors. He got me into sports, into hip-hop, and he got me into video games and anticipating games like SVR 07, my first ever WWE game. A game that I played for countless hours and only played as one person. No matter how fun the CPU made the opponents, no matter how interesting or cool their moveset or intro was, I only played as John Cena. I was such a John Cena fan that I wouldn't only give him the world title when he didn't have it defaultly in the game, I would also give him all of the titles. I would eventually open the roster and play other wrestlers, but no one came close to the playtime I had with Cena. He was basically a real life superhero, and from what I saw, how could he not be? Me and my friends would talk for hours about the feats he would do, how amazed we were. Watching him wasn't just about watching wrestling, it was about a belief. A belief that you could be as strong, fearless, and moral all at once. Belief that you can care deeply about a character and feel inspired by the way they carried themselves. Cena had this way of making you feel like you were a part of something bigger. Like you were living in the story with him. Regardless if you were part of the C Nation or repping Chain Gang, you felt as if you were a part of something bigger than yourself. You just wanted to mimic as much as you could from Cena and do it yourself. Every time he entered that arena, every time he raised the championship, it was a rush of excitement that made you forget about the rest of the world. And for the next year or so, life as a wrestling fan was getting good. I would talk for hours with my friends at school or my family about wrestling. I would get action figures and replica titles. I would even get the John Cena My Life DVD and watch that DVD for hours, especially the JBO I Quit match. I would tune in every Friday and every Monday and just get pulled into a magical world that jolted my young eyes. But with every hero to rise, there needs to come a villain.
Why'd you stop? Hey, wait! What the hell? That's John Cena's father!
Randy Orton was a conniving, cruel presence in the world of WWE. He would RKO his girlfriend, RKO an old lady, set people on fire. The first person I can remember genuinely booing. The first character I truly hated on screen. Up until that point, wrestling felt exciting, dramatic, but safe. Orton changed that. He felt calculated, cold, and deliberate, in a way that made him super impossible to root for. You can argue that John Cena's defining rival was Edge, especially after he cashed in his Money in the Bank contract, an opportunity to allow its holder to challenge for the championship anytime, anywhere. And while that moment was shocking, I missed it. But what I didn't miss was the beginning of something darker. The rivalry between John Cena and Randy Orton. It started on August 27, 2007. That was the night Randy Orton punk kicked John Cena's father. And in that moment, everything changed for me. This wasn't just a storyline anymore. This wasn't just someone standing across the ring for my hero that I believed in. This felt personal. For the first time, I didn't just want the hero to win, I needed him to win. That was the moment Randy Orton stopped being just another wrestler and became the villain of my story. I hoped he would never beat Cena or outsmart him. And as their match for the WWE title came closer, I believed so hard and hoped that no matter what plan Orton had under his sleeve, Cena would prevail. Even though Randy Orton shattered my sense of fantasy, I didn't think anything else would be able to do that. But I never expected it to fully disappear. But that moment didn't belong to a villain, it belonged to reality. October 1st, John Cena tore his right pectoral muscle, an injury that would sideline him for the unseeable future. My young mind couldn't comprehend what I just witnessed and heard. How can Superman get hurt? How can the man that suddenly got me into this suddenly be gone? I couldn't believe it. But as the weeks started to pile on and his appearance was nowhere to be found, the show started to feel a bit empty for me. And what made it worse was that Randy Orton, out of all people, was given the WWE Championship. He didn't win a match. He didn't win a tournament to earn the title. He was just given the title Cena worked so hard to achieve. For 380 days, John Cena was on top and champion, beating guys that were twice his size like the Great Khali or Umaga. But he overcame all of that. So to see his hard work just given to a guy that was stooped so low and literally do anything to get his win and way just rubbed me the wrong way. Wrestling kept moving forward, and unfortunately so did I. I started to enjoy other wrestlers, Rey Mysterio, Batista, The Undertaker, Jeff Hardy. Each of them brought something different, something exciting. But no matter how invested I became, something was missing. The show felt quieter without him. The space he left behind was impossible to ignore. Back in the day, before you can stream or pay a subscription to watch all of the pay-per-views, you had to spend $60 on a pay-per-view. Now sometimes the show were good, and sometimes the show were a miss. Now I don't know about you, but I didn't have the money to constantly buy every pay-per-view every month. But I remember there were two that my dad did buy for me. That being the 2010 Elimination Chamber and the 2008 Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble is my favorite pay-per-view because of what the Royal Rumble has to offer. How fun it is to watch and the concept of it. It was unpredictable. Two wrestlers would start in the ring, the clock would tick down, and every countdown carried possibility. One by one, new competitors entered, colliding with rivals they'll never face otherwise. Anything could happen, and if you won, you earned a guaranteed world title opportunity at WrestleMania, the biggest stage of them all. The card was enjoyable and entertaining, and as the night and event went on, it was time for the Royal Rumble itself. The match went on and the participants came and went, and it was at the final stretch of the show. The final entry was about to make their appearance. I had no idea who was going to be or who will ultimately win the match. The countdown of the clock filled the screen. Each second ticked away, and when it finally hit 0, there was a brief pause. Just long enough for the entire arena to hold their breath. The crowd waited, unsure who was coming out next. And then the music hit. For a moment, it felt too unreal, too perfect. I couldn't and didn't believe it. John Cena's theme blasted through the arena and the reaction was instant. The crowd erupted. The uncertainty vanished in a split second, replaced by noise and disbelief, and even through the screen you can feel that energy. My first thought wasn't excitement though, it was suspicion. I couldn't believe it and I convinced myself it had to be a trick. For a few moments, I thought it was the ultimate heel playing with everyone's emotion. I thought it was someone pretending to be Cena and ruin that sense that he came back. Even as the figure stepped onto the stage, I refused to accept it. He walked forward slowly, head down, letting the moment stretch. And I still couldn't believe it. Then he lifted his head, and in that instant, there was no mistaking it. It wasn't a trick. It wasn't a fake out. It was John Cena. He was back, In 3 months, John Cena came back from an injury that people were saying were going to put him out for 6 to 12 months. But like the superhuman he is, he came back, shocked the world, and won the match and was going to WrestleMania. I didn't care whether he won or lost the match at WrestleMania. I mean, of course I wanted him to win, but I was just excited that he came back. By the year 2010, something has changed. I didn't notice it right away. It slowly crept in quietly. I was still committed watching every week, but the feeling wasn't the same. For years I respected everything about Cena. Every match, every promo, every moment he was on the screen felt important. He was the hero I trusted. But now the matches started to blur together. The outcomes felt predictable. No matter who stood across from him, the result almost always felt decided before the bell rang. And as I got older, I started craving something different. I found myself drawn to other wrestlers, like Triple H, Kofi Kingston, Christian, CM Punk, MVP. And I was even starting to root for heels more, or people that I never thought I would like in the first place, like Randy Orton, or Edge, Sheamus, Cody Rhodes, Chris Jericho, Drew McIntyre, and Dolph Ziggler. I wanted to see new stars rise. I wanted to see new stories take over. But every time it felt like the spotlight was finally moving forward, it snapped back to Cena. That realization hit the hardest at the 2010 SummerSlam pay-per-view. John Cena and 6 other WWE wrestlers stood across from the Nexus, a group of WWE rookies that didn't just feel new but threatening. They were chaotic, unpredictable. They tore through the roster and made WWE feel dangerous again. For once, it looked like the future was built in real time. This is exactly what I was waiting for. The original plan was for the Nexus to win. A victory would have solidified them, elevated 7 new incomers, and shifted the entire landscape. It would have meant change. But instead of that, the plans changed instead. The Nexus lost, halting any movement that they had or were going to have. That was the moment it clicked for me. Not out of hatred, but frustration. SummerSlam wasn't just disappointing, it felt final. After watching the Raw the next night and hearing about the result, I just stopped watching. I stopped caring. No more Raw, no more SmackDown. I stopped buying the yearly game. I no longer caught up with what was going on. Wrestling, the thing that once meant everything to me, faded away. And just like that, I was done. Which, looking back at it, it was very unfortunate. In stepping away, I missed some crucial WWE storylines like the Summer of Punk, when rebellion felt real. The rise of Daniel Bryan, when an underdog forced the world to believe. The arrival of The Shield, who changed what dominance looked like. And even John Cena's US Open Challenge, where he reinvented himself in front of a new generation. But at the time, none of that mattered. Wrestling no longer held that same pull it once did. My attention drifted elsewhere towards other hobbies, other interests. Life moved forward, and wrestling stayed behind. It was 2016, and I avoided anything related to WWE for 6 years. I was completely lost and oblivious to what was going on. Then one day my dad and I were scrolling through the channels and we stumbled upon Monday Night Raw. We decided to give it another chance because nothing else was on at the moment, and it was like I was going through deja vu. It felt as if I was hit with that same spark that I felt as a child. I was interested in wrestling once again. From the presentation to these new stars that I was introduced to, like Finn Balor, Sasha Banks, Kevin Owens, Charlotte Flair, Asuka, Samoa Joe, Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, who we'll come back to later. I was interested in wrestling once again. In the Raw I saw, John Cena appeared. I was worried I was about to relive the same frustration that drove me away back in 2010. I was hesitant and nervous, but something felt different. The spotlight wasn't exclusive anymore, Cena was sharing it. It felt like other stars were able to share that spotlight with him, or hold it for themselves. Then out came AJ Styles. I didn't know anything about who this person was. I didn't know anything about AJ Styles. And when he came out and confronted Cena, then attacked him with the OC, I was invested. To the point that I bought the WWE Network and watched the SummerSlam pay-per-view of 2016 and was blown away by it. With great matches all around the card, witnessing new and promising wrestlers that I was invested in, and when it came to the AJ Styles and John Cena match, AJ Styles won. I felt that my issue was finally resolved. No longer was the program predictable. No longer would I feel bored or interested anymore. After watching the pay-per-view, I knew something special was about to arise. I started to see a different side of Cena, the veteran who allowed younger wrestlers to showcase their skills and give them a time to shine. He opened doors for wrestlers who never stood on the stage before. Mid-card names, overlooked talent, hungry competitors. Suddenly, they weren't just filling time on a card. They were standing across from the greatest of all time with a real chance to prove themselves. Not just towards Cena, but to the fans, with a real chance to win. And Cena didn't protect himself the way stars often do. He didn't walk in, dominate, hit his 5 moves of doom, and walk out. He took their offense, he sold their moves. He made them look dangerous, he made them feel important. He was opening his arsenal, pulling out moves we have never seen him do before, wrestling with urgency, creativity, and hunger. Every match felt different. Every night felt like something could happen. And because of that, the US Championship felt alive again. It wasn't just a belt or a secondary title, it was a proving ground, a launch pad, a spotlight. Cena didn't just hold the title, he elevated its status, he gave it meaning. He made it feel like it was something worth fighting for again. Night after night, with new challengers stepping forward, the matches didn't feel stale. They didn't feel routine. They felt alive, they felt earned, and for the first time in a long time, watching Cena didn't feel like watching the same story repeat, it felt like we were watching something evolve. As I was coming back to watching WWE and catching up on storylines that I have missed and wrestlers that came during my break, there was one wrestler that stood out to me, that being Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns' career is a fascinating story and one that deserves its own video, but I enjoy his story because it involves more than just wrestling. I remember a post or a comment that I saw in regards to Roman Reigns, and I believe it fits him so well with him and his career. The most hated hero and the most beloved villain, because his story transcends from what happens in the ring and goes deeper. It is a blend of Roman Reigns the character and Roman Reigns the person. WWE needed a new face of the company because Cena was slowly transitioning into doing movies. The face of WWE was slowly stepping back, and the company needed someone new to carry that weight. Someone who could be placed anywhere on the card. Someone who could sell merchandise, anchor storylines, and become the image people associate with the company. WWE searched for that person and yet didn't find it. That wasn't until a group called The Shield came to the scene. The members of this group were Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose. WWE invested heavily in this group with money, time, and presentation. They were built as a dominant force and it worked. The Shield connected with fans, felt dangerous, and felt real. At a time that WWE was feeling very PG and cartoonish. And then WWE decided to pull the trigger and break up the faction so that these men can venture into their own solo careers. They had to pick which man from this group that they put so much investment in, who was going to be the new face of WWE, that being Roman Reigns. On paper it made sense. Roman Reigns looked the part. He had a presence, he was athletic, powerful, and carried himself like a star, but he wasn't as experienced as the other two. Seth and Dean had wrestled longer than Roman did. They redefined their craft, sharpened their voices. Roman was still finding his. And once he stood alone, that gap became more visible, especially in his promos. A primary example is the Suffering Succotash promo, where in a segment Roman Reigns told Seth Rollins,
"You are a sniveling little suck-up sellout full of suffering succotash, son!"
Dean Ambrose, also known as Jon Moxley, explained that in a podcast. He stated that Vince had him said Suffering Succotash. You know what I mean? I remember that day. You think he wanted to say that? No. He went in there and came out and was like, he wants me to say Suffering Succotash. And I remember kind of laughing like, dude, you can't say that. He's like, he wants me to say it. Is there a cool way to say it? I'm like, what if you look at the camera and said, well, that wasn't easy to say or something? I don't know. While wrestling fans wanted other wrestlers to fit this role like Daniel Bryan, who was a beloved underdog babyface that fans constantly voiced their opinion on, to the point that fans forced WWE to change their original plan at WrestleMania 30 to have Bryan win the WWE World Heavyweight title. Instead of keeping that spark and using this to bring in more wrestling fans with a beloved babyface that everyone adored, WWE was still keying in and forcing Roman Reigns consistently time and time again, having him in constant segments and climbing the card extremely fast, but fans were not behind it. The reason why I mention this is because Roman Reigns and John Cena dealt with the same kind of issues. Young wrestlers that were pushed very young in their careers and fans criticized and backlashed. When I started watching wrestling back in 2016 again, I wasn't aware of the struggles Roman was facing, and I actually liked him in his presentation at first. And when crowds would boo him consistently or people would talk about him negatively, I was curious on why. And as I kept watching, it became clear why the fans despised Roman. It was the presentation that WWE had on Roman. Seth and Dean evolved into their own characters. You could see the new layers emerging, new directions unfolding, identities in motion, alive with possibility. Roman, on the other hand, felt the opposite. He had the same gear, same theme song, same entrance as when he was in the Shield. While Seth and Dean ditched the Shield gimmick, Roman was still latching onto it, as if the weight of the past identity was his only anchor. You got the same jaded, overdone character night after night, and the victories only made it worse. Each win pushed them higher, untouchable, like a comic book hero who only fell when the villains cheated. The opposite of what made the Shield compelling to watch. Roman, at an early stage of his career, was beating 5-man teams all by himself, would break the Royal Rumble elimination record, and would just win over and over again. Familiar, almost painfully familiar to Super Cena. It made me understand why years ago I stopped liking John Cena, because of his repetitiveness. It felt like Roman was being molded into a copy and paste hero like Cena, which Cena even said himself in a back and forth with Roman when he called him a corporately created John Cena bootleg. But the truth is, no amount of wins, no amount of polish can make us believe or interested in that type of character.
Tonight, I officially announce my retirement from the WWE.
When John Cena announced his retirement on July 6, 2024, it sent a shockwave through the arena and straight through me. This wasn't just any wrestler again. This was a man who brought so many people, including myself, into wrestling and built a bond with fans worldwide. He created a championship legacy and became a staple of the company. He granted countless Make-A-Wish dreams, brightened the lives of so many children, learned different languages to connect with fans across the globe, and helped expand WWE into new regions and cultures. He spread an idea, a mindset, that went even beyond wrestling, something you can apply to your own life. He didn't have to do any of this, but he did, and that's what made him special. And because of that, it meant more. It showed he genuinely cared. So when the news broke down, it hit right at home. This was it. This was the last year John Cena would wrestle. I would get to watch my hero one final time. And during that farewell tour, I felt like a kid again. I wanted Super Cena to rise one last time. I wanted him to chase down accolades that once eluded him. Every match, every appearance mattered, no matter who stood across from him. Even if it was someone like Cody Rhodes, a man who clawed his way back into the company and overcame a Mount Everest of a challenge in Roman Reigns. A new, fully realized Roman Reigns who held the championship for 1,316 days. No matter if I loved the opponent or hated them, all I could see was Cena. And what made this farewell even more special was the chance to relive the past, seeing him face old rivals one last time like Randy Orton or AJ Styles, feeling that nostalgia hit all over again. I also got to witness matches with wrestlers I missed during my hiatus like CM Punk. Then came the 2025 Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. John Cena gave us one final surprise. He won the match, and he earned the opportunity to face Cody Rhodes for the undisputed WWE title. And then he did the impossible. After 20 plus years of being booed as a babyface, after 20 plus years of criticism that he absorbed without even breaking, fueled by his love for the fans and his personal morals, John Cena finally embraced his dark side and turned heel. At WrestleMania 41, he did the impossible. He broke Ric Flair's record. He captured world title number 17, and I rooted for it. It didn't matter whether he was a heel or a face. I just wanted my hero, the same man I grew up watching, to break the record and do something unforgettable before he left. And on top of that, he finally became a Grand Slam champion, capturing a world title, both singles title, and a tag team title. Another box checked, another legacy sealed. Then came his final match. I was hyped. I was sad. I was excited. I was dreading it. My emotions were everywhere. All I wanted was Cena to win one last time. But the match ended in a disappointment. Not because he lost, but because how he lost. Now again, this was a man whose entire identity was built on never give up. A man who endured brutal matches, impossible odds, and gruesome punishment. The kind that would break anyone else. And yet in his final match, he tapped out? It just felt wrong. It felt disrespectful. It felt like a betrayal to the character, of the legacy, of everything he stood for. A man who never quit. But the damage was done. And then something beautiful happened. The locker room emptied, wrestlers poured out to honor him. Both world champions placed their titles on the shoulder of the greatest of all time. A farewell video played, the crowd rose, the arena stood still, and with one final salute, John Cena walked away. Not just from the ring, but from an era. And in that moment, no matter how it ended, no matter what I had wished gone differently, I understood something. I wasn't just saying goodbye to a wrestler, I was saying goodbye to my childhood. And I was grateful I got to see him one last time. Whether you hated the guy or loved him, you cannot deny or underappreciate what he did for the company, how vocal he was to the business and to the fans, how he would listen, adapt, and apply what he had heard from the audience into his wrestling and his character, how he gave us classic after classic, year after year, and what a ride it truly was. John Cena's season finale was remarkable. It might not have been perfect, it might not have been the greatest ending ever written, but it was honest, it was earned, and it was worth watching. I do regret not watching wrestling for those 6 years, because those 6 years I'll never get back. 6 years of stories, moments, and memories I have missed. 6 years of Cena evolving, reinventing himself, and slowly transitioning into something more than just the guy on top. But in a way, that absence made his final run even mean more. It made his farewell feel heavier, more emotional, more final. Because for me and so many fans, John Cena wasn't just a wrestler. We didn't just watch him wrestle, we grew up with him, we argued about him, we cheered for him, we booed for him, we defended him, we doubted him, and somehow through all of that he remained. Wrestling will move on. New faces will rise. New heroes will be crowned. That's just how the business works. That's just how life works. But no matter who they bring, no matter who becomes the next face of the company, John Cena will always be number one for me. John Cena taught us that heroes don't stay forever, but the impact they leave does. Those stories don't end when the character leaves the screen. They live on in the people who watched, who believed, who cared. And as the lights dim and as the crowd rise, and the chants begin to echo through the arena, it isn't just for the man in the ring. It's for our childhood, it's for our memories, it's for the moment, it's for the rides. And once again, to hear it one final time, thank you, Cena. A little over a year ago, I uploaded my first video and started my channel and wanted to say thank you to everyone that engaged with my content and are on this journey with me. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know who would watch or if anyone would. But today I just wanted to say thank you to every single one of you who clicked on a video. I want to continue doing video essays and discussing topics that are interesting to me, and I hope that they're interesting to you as well. And like always,